Fraser Penman, welcome to the podcast.
Callum, amazing to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Firstly, how are you?
I'm well. I'm tired, but I'm well.
You've been on a few podcasts now, but is there any podcast that you listen to?
I listen to a lot of Darren Brown's podcasts and also A Diary of a CEO by Stephen.
Yep.
And that kind of gives me inspiration and whatnot as well. Obviously, you know, I was on Gary Fauld's podcast a couple of weeks ago, so
Yeah.
I listened to that one, of course. Right. And of course yourself.
Oh, so thank you very much for that. You're the first person to say that.
I tell you.
Do you have any pop culture interest yourself?
Pop culture, I really like Lewis Capaldi. He's got a documentary coming out, I believe, on the 5th of April. And I love his story and his background and his uniqueness. Obviously, with me being unique, I like the fact that he doesn't fit the mold, or he doesn't fit the standard pop look, I suppose.
Yep.
He's just himself, and that's what I aim to be, especially with what I do.
Yeah, and Lewis Capaldi is actually from my hometown. So,
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Where is that? I don't
so
know.
it's Whitburn in West Lothian.
Is it Whitburn?
Yeah.
The secret's out. The secret is out.
So we had somebody that won the X Factor that was from Whitburn, and then
Right.
Lewis has now elevated Whitburn to another level.
And next, it's Pop Culture Podcast, right?
Well, we hope so. If we ever get to the level of what Lewis has done, I'd be happy. But you had mentioned in the press pack that you play guitar and sing as well.
Yeah, so growing up, I had a massive interest in kind of musical theatre and whatnot. So from about the age of 5, I picked up my first guitar, and as you do, you get took along to the old guitar lessons, playing Yellow Submarine is where it all started. And yes, from there, I just kind of had an interest in writing my own songs and learning how to play. And I suppose I was very much a YouTube guitarist. And then from there, grew on to loving the piano. And through YouTube, I taught myself to learn to read music and play the piano. Not to an amazing standard, but, you know, it's enough for Christmas time when the family's round, getting out We Wish You a Merry Christmas. So I quite enjoy that, actually.
That's amazing. Self-taught as well. Piano's very hard.
Yeah, it is. I always find I can't draw. I've not got an artistic bone in my body in that way, but I have a great kind of imagination and creativity that I love taking something that I can't do, building on it, putting in the hours and seeing the end result. I really enjoy that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and what kind of music do you listen to? Like, what is the kind of influences that you've got?
Oh, guilty pleasures or the
Both.
the PC answer. So I listen to anything really. It can go from Adele to Westlife to Lewis Capaldi to Joe Corey to Panic of the Disco. It can be absolutely anything. I've got quite a wide variety. Anything apart from Screamo.
Okay.
Sorry to all those Screamo fans out there. It's just not for me.
And for those of you listening out there that don't know, Fraser is a mentalist, is that right? And a clinical hypnotherapist?
I am a stage hypnotist, a mentalist, and a certified clinical hypnotherapist. Yep.
Wow. And you're from East Kilbride as well?
I am from East Kilbride, just outside Glasgow.
And you're kind of known as Scotland's answer to Darren Brown and the most unique hypnotist.
Yep.
As well.
So probably about, I think it was during lockdown, just when this kind of all took off and all started kind of going a little bit crazy. The Daily Record done a story on it and published it, and their headline was Scotland's answer to Darren Brown, so that was pretty cool. I'll take that because he's a massive inspiration of mine. So
yeah. And that was going to be my next question. Is Darren Brown actually an inspiration to you? But you've mentioned him twice already, so I'm guessing he is.
Yeah. So there was obviously everybody will know Darren Brown, but for me and any hypnotist, listen to this. Anthony Gailey, who is a kind of psychologist and doctor within the field, he does a lot of theories on what hypnosis is. And I grew up watching him on YouTube, as well as Michael C. Anthony and Richard Barker. All of these guys inspired me to be able to go on the big stage and do what they were doing.
Yeah, and two of them are your actual mentors as well.
We are, yes. So I was mentored personally by Michael C. Anthony. We're still very good friends. And he helped me structure my show and build it to what it's become. He kind of lays out the foundations and what I didn't know, but he doesn't do it for you. I always say when you join any of these mentorships or programs, you get what you put in. Nobody's going to tell you to do it this way or contact that person. You need to be a little bit hungry and a little bit forward thinking, in the sense that if you have the will and the ability, because anybody can do it if you work hard enough. It's just finding what works for you, finding your unique selling point and building on that. And again, with Richard Barker, who I'm currently working with just now, he is a marketing genius. He performs out in America and worldwide. He's done stuff in London, all across the US, and he's helping me kind of build the business element side of it. I'm good at what I do on stage and I love performing, but I've never ran a business before. And now my family do run their own local businesses, but I never had an interest of it. And the crazy thing is, this was never supposed to be a business. And my brother once told me, who's also an entrepreneur, he told me an amazing phrase, and it was this: if you're good at something, then you tell the world. If you're amazing at something, then people tell you. And that's how this all started, was people came to me and said, oh, could you do this or could you do that? And I was like, I don't even do shows yet. And but we done it, and here we are today.
Well, you're a creative. We're not supposed to be good at the business aspects
that's right.
of it.
I know.
You know, creators, let the creators create and let everybody else do all the kind of fancy stuff.
Absolutely.
Speaking of Derren Brown, the only kind of reference point I have to this is Derren Brown and also Colin Cloud. I don't know if that's a similar thing or if you know who that is. But
Colin Cloud, I spoke to Colin Cloud. He's a mentalist. He's a very good one at that.
He's also from my neck of the woods. So
is today's podcast just a name drop day from your hometown?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's all of a sudden we go from years and years of nobody being anything, and then all of a sudden we're all coming out the woodworks. So.
Well, you heard it here first. I'm putting East Kilbride on the map.
But yeah, the reference point, Derren Brown, I love these shows with the zombie apocalypse, the Russian roulette and the seance. For me, that was fantastic TV. Like that was back in the day, and you know, I just ate all that up. It was so fantastic. Good. He's so good at what he does. But I have no experience with hypnotherapy at all, so I'm going to be using you as my guide to educate me on that.
That's exactly why I'm here.
So what is the difference between a mentalist and a hypnotist? Is there a difference, or is that just the same thing?
No, there's a massive difference. So a mentalist is more probably psychological illusion, where it involves a lot of misdirection and subliminal messaging, and it's all about reading people and how to get information out of a person without them even knowing it. So it's me trying to get inside your head without you realising, to guide you to what I'd like you to do. Now, it sounds a little bit like mind control, but it's not. As humans, we are all born, but over time we all learn predictable patterns of behaviour. So it's not so much the story that somebody tells another person, but more so the story that we tell ourselves and how you interpret that. And that's different for everybody. In mentalism, you can create these amazing moments of magic that looks like magic, that isn't magic, but it's kind of manifested through your own thoughts and your own mind, but you just don't know it's there yet until somebody points you in the right direction, and you end up at this amazing finale that just leaves audiences outstanding for weeks and months and years. And it's that amazing reaction as to, how did he do that? And a lot of people go away thinking, I'll try and figure that out. But the more you think something's done, the further away you get from it. And that's incredible. And it's awesome.
Yeah.
With hypnosis, a lot of people, I would be a very rich person if I had £1 for every time somebody says, you use actors, you use stooges and whatnot, and it doesn't matter how many times you tell people we don't use actors, we don't use stooges, people never believe it. So my thought to that is, come see a show. Come see your friend, your neighbour, your brother, your sister, your mother, or even yourself up on stage. And hypnosis is a state of consciousness whereby, if we were to look at a little bit of the neuroscience, we all have brainwave patterns. Now, not to bore you with the science of it, but let's just number them 1 to 5. So number 1 is if you were in maybe a fight or flight situation whereby somebody's approached you or tried to rob you or something like that, and your instincts kick in. Number 2 is the state we're in just now. We're just kind of getting on with our everyday life and whatnot. Stage 3 is, have you ever been watching a movie and been so engrossed in the movie, you know it's fake, you know it's made up, but you feel that emotion and you cry at a movie?
Yeah.
Or if somebody shouts your name and you're so engrossed in that movie or the game, or even just scrolling TikTok on your phone, I could be right beside you screaming your name, but your brain doesn't hear it. And it's not until you get a slap on the head with a slipper that goes, hey, I'm talking to you. You go, where are you? How can your brain block all of that out and focus. Hypnosis is just focus and concentration. And then what you see in hypnotherapy and on stage is brainwave pattern 4. That's hypnosis. And the one below that is sleep. A lot of people think hypnosis is sleep. It's not. It's just been a thing that's been manifested and used as a trigger. But you're still fully awake. You're still fully conscious. You're just so focused and guided to what I'm telling you that nothing else matters.
Yeah. And from somebody telling me about Colin Cloud, they were saying that he worked with like the FBI. I don't know if that's information, but like to help solve murders and stuff like that. Like,
so a lot of what I do is kind of personal profiling. They always say, have you ever heard of 30 seconds first impressions? So
no, but it makes sense.
So 30 seconds first impression. So when you walk in a room, you can have a look around the room and maybe there's a light out in the corner. You think, okay, maybe standards aren't that high, or you see somebody and they've got clean shoes and they smell nice and they're well dressed. You think, okay, this person's ready for business and whatnot. You make an analogy or a judgment of somebody before you've even spoke to them. This often happens with the law of attraction. Now, a lot of people say that personality is what attracts you to somebody, but what is the attraction before you open your mouth and have that communication? You communicate through your body language, your eyes, your scent, everything at all. So it's your perception. So communication's a wide thing. And definitely with the mentalism and personal profiling, the FBI use this to discover if somebody's lying or not or whatnot, because there's little things like if you look up to the left-hand side, then you can tell that somebody's lying, and little microfilament movements that not everybody would pick up, but from studying body language and all the rest of it, it's something that we're really in tune with.
Yeah, and that's incredible. There's so much you can do with it. And you were mentioning about your mentors being very successful in the field.
Yep.
How much of that American style, because you studied in America as well, how much of that style incorporated into your show?
Yeah, a little bit different. So I wanted my show to be really original. So I might be using the same psychological concepts, but that's why I spent some time with comedians and whatnot, because I wanted to take things that are funny for me to enjoy the show. Because I see, once I've done the induction, I'm enjoying the show just as much as anybody else in the audience. And it's actually the opposite. When I go to America, I need to change the language I use to fit that audience, especially being Scottish with quite a strong accent, which we might not believe it to be, but over there it is definitely strong. So I need to adapt the show, not so much in what happens in the show, but maybe the way that I pronounce words or give a suggestion and stuff like that. But looking at their content, I like to see an amazing show and think, that's really cool, but how could I put my own twist on that?
Yeah. And what is your process for crafting a show from its inception to actually performing it?
Yeah, so I've got an office in the house, and there's always just boards of ideas, or if I see something that I like or I think is funny, I'll note it down, and then I'll begin the process of show script writing. So my show that I currently do just now, A Night of the Mind, which you should go see at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, August 15th to the 27th. Shameless plug.
Already shameless plugging already within what, minutes?
Listen, we're past the town plugs, we're into the show plugs. It took me just over a year to write my show. It's quite a long process, and it's a lot of sending it to my mentors, getting their feedback and whatnot, change this little bit, and then you need to learn it. It's like a 40-page, don't know how many thousand words, and you might know the language and you might know the script inside out, but then you've got the month of preparation for performance. It's the same when I'm doing any psychological stuff or any sort of form of hypnosis or illusion. I might learn something in 7 to 10 days, but it will take me 4 months before I present it to somebody, because it takes hours upon hours upon hours of getting things right, and it's creating this reality of stories and imagination that really brings stuff to life.
Yeah, and you've obviously picked up from being on stage performing at theatres. So I think you had quite a lot of experience of that.
Yep.
And that's probably helped you kind of perfect your craft for your show, because as a show, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. I always say that this is a business and hypnosis is a driving vehicle. So what I found with a lot of hypnotists is once they've done their hypnotic induction, that's putting everybody to sleep, that's when the show would start. To me, my show starts as soon as I walk out on stage. So I wanted to make sure that my induction was entertaining, or the psychological processes we go through to find out who are good hypnotic subjects, that's entertaining. So people are entertained from the moment I walk on stage. There's no this long droopy music and this long induction. Everything happens really fast, really quick. And I've done it to a process where I wanted it to be slick like that. And although I was a clinical hypnotherapist before I done stage hypnosis, my acting in theatre presence, having lead roles when I was younger, doing kind of pantomime and different musicals and whatnot, definitely helped that show craft. And you find, especially just with stage hypnotists, you can have an amazing hypnotherapist, but you can't always have great stage hypnotists. You've either got the want and the niche to be on stage, or you don't, and that can be developed over time. But I think a little bit of it just comes from some natural ability and stuff like that as well.
Yeah, and talk to me about the build up on the day, like when you're performing. What's it like? Is it do you get anxious? Do you get nervous?
Oh, I feel so sick. if you think about it, I remember doing my very first show, and it was for an awards night for my brother's company, and I'd never done a show before, and I said, yeah, can I do this hypnosis show? It's for 165 people, the biggest audience I'd ever done. And he said, yeah, no worries. And I remember being in the shower the morning before, like, could I just phone in sick? Could I just ignore it? But I'm so glad I did, because the endorphins rush that I got on stage reminded me of when I was 12 years old, being that headline performer, before all the anxiety and worrying what people looking at me looked like. It just brought back that, and for the first time in a long time, I was completely myself and completely happy. I didn't have to. It's kind of like time freezes when you're in that moment. You just forget about all your own personal issues and everything else, and you just enjoy the moment, and it's a beautiful thing. But before it, definitely sick. As the years have went on, I get a little bit better because I'm a little bit more confident in my performance, but I'm always reaching for perfection. I will always find niggles throughout any show I do, and that's how you grow and that's how you become better. So I'll die trying to reach perfection, because I don't think anybody ever reaches it, really.
Yeah, it's quite a hard goal to chase.
It is. It's the imperfections that make people perfect, right?
Exactly, and that's what we go for in this. This is very imperfect. So, so how much does you get that confidence from hypnotherapy? Does that give you a bit of confidence because you've got that kind of inside your mind?
It's, again, completely different scenarios, completely different situations. What you see on stage is not what happens in a hypnotherapy room. It's a completely different setting and whatnot. It's a completely different process. There's no dropping people to the floor and all that good stuff, all that entertaining stuff, because people are there with their own personal issues. But what I do and what confidence I do get from hypnotherapy is the amazing impact you can have in people's lives. So in the therapy room, I'm helping people become the best version of themselves, helping people improve their life. And that lets you go home at the end of the evening thinking, I've made a difference today. On the stage, what you're doing is you're helping people escape reality, just even for an hour a day, forgetting about all their worries and troubles of yesterday and today, and just being completely engrossed in the moment. And that's magic within itself. So taking people out of their day-to-day busy lives to come together and share this moment, not just with me, but the volunteers and everybody else in that room, to have this wow moment, if that makes sense, is just as empowering as the hypnotherapy. So although they're completely different, the magic moments go hand in hand, and that gives me the confidence and gets me out of bed every day, and there's nothing better. Best drug in the world, honestly.
Amazing, man. And you can use hypnotherapy for a lot of different, it can be used as a tool to get people to stop their anxiety or control their anxiety, or stop smoking, or can you tell us a little bit about that? Yeah,
so with the hypnotherapy, I deal with a wide range of issues, from chronic pain in people's backs to anxiety, which can be anything from psychodynamic analysis or troublehood in their past or their child. Weight loss, you can actually fit a gastric band the same way that we do through surgery, but you just don't have the scars that's left over. Obviously, stop smoking, alcohol addictions, phobias, fears. Sports enhanced performance is a really big one, actually.
Wow.
So, for example, high-level athletes who are preparing for fights or events or whatnot, helping them, and not a lot of people realise this, but you've probably heard mind over matter, correct? Having the correct mindset can increase your performance or help you achieve your goals so much more than any training can. And I have that personal experience of changing my own mindset, and that's why I'm such a big believer of it. I'm not saying it's the be-all and end-all. I simply say that it's another tool for your toolkit, you know?
Yeah. And the reason that I kind of wanted to get you on here was because we had that mutual mental health battle, and you found hypnotherapy through your mental health battle?
Yeah, so from about the age of 8, I was bullied for having albinism. I've got albinism. As a result of that, I have a visual impairment. And from about the age of 8, I experienced bullying in school where people would throw rocks at me on the way home. I would get hate mail on my phone. People would laugh at me in the playground, not sit next to me, be the last picked, all that good stuff. As I kind of went into high school, that kind of escalated. I actually got attacked off a group of youths, I suppose you could say, for about 15 people on one. So I got a bit of a doing that day. And that left me with this whole question of where do I fit in life? Because I wasn't being bullied for being overweight or having a squint. I was being bullied for something that was completely out of my control. I was literally being bullied for me, which can leave a person, kids can be cruel, but that can be really damaging to a person in the way that if you don't know where you belong in life, that can often lead to you questioning why even be here in the first place. And as a result of my bullying from about the age of 14, I dyed my hair. I would wear fake tan every single day. I would wear makeup, and just to get me outside the front door, because that's what I needed to do to help me step over every single day in life. And I done that for 10 years. And my family used to ask questions about my kind of sexuality because it's a little bit out of the norm. Maybe not so much nowadays, but 10 years ago, definitely. And they understood it and they got it, but I'm sure there was always questions in the back of their mind. And it ended up me questioning myself at one point, thinking, am I what I identify as, all that good stuff? And after 10 years, I was at university and I was studying to get my degree to go into education. And we had to do this presentation that said, what does education mean to you? And at the time, I wanted to get into education because I wanted to make a difference. Now, I'd seen some psychologists and counsellors when I was growing up, but me being young and somebody else sitting across the table from me at 50 that'd never been bullied in a day in their life, I found it really hard to relate. And I wanted to be young and be relatable and help somebody that was in my position. But that moment really hit me hard. And in the same week, I got diagnosed as dyslexic. And I just kind of had this nervous breakdown thinking, what am I doing with my life? What do I actually want? I was kind of miserable. And I just purchased my first flat. And it got to the point where I had a lot of free time. I didn't have a partner. And obviously, when you first move out, you want to prove you're independent, so you stay a little bit distant from family. And it got to the point where I was so unhappy that I wasn't washing, I wasn't taking out the bins, I wasn't keeping up with the domestic chores, I wasn't lifting the blinds, and I got myself into this amazing rut of depression. And I'd always contemplated suicide for about 6 to 7 years, and I thought, I'd never do this because I wouldn't want to have a terrible effect on my family and what I would leave behind. And it came to the point where I created this false reality for myself that I was in so much pain every single day that I didn't want to be here anymore. And it actually came to the point where I got 3 days away from suicide. I phoned up my mum. And I said, we need to talk. We need to have a meeting. And she said, what's up? And I said, I've made up my mind. I'm going to commit suicide in 3 days. I've got a plan and I don't want you to stop me. And for a mother to hear that from a child must have been gut-wrenching, absolutely gut-wrenching. And it was that night I spoke to my brother and he said, what's brought you to this? He says, I don't believe you're depressed. And that kind of caught me off guard in the sense of, well, what do you mean? And he says, what do you want to do? And I says, the only thing that made me happy was being on the stage. And I'd started looking into Derren Brown and started kind of self-studying hypnosis over the coming months. And I knew that all hypnosis was self-hypnosis. It's the mindset we create for ourselves. He says, well, why don't you do it? And I says, there's no way. I said, I've got a full-time job. I've just moved out. It's too late. I've missed my opportunity. He says, no, you haven't. So that evening, I went to my bed, and just before my bed, I done 10 minutes of self-hypnosis, and I gave myself one suggestion. And that suggestion was, you are enough. You are enough. 3 simple words. And I'd seen everything that I thought could help change my mindset, and it hadn't worked. And the very next day, I woke up, I shaved off all my dark hair, I binned all my makeup, binned all my fake tan, saved up in the coming months for my own money while I was working, and paid to educate myself through my diploma in clinical hypnotherapy. Started becoming a clinical hypnotherapist, and then began going into the stage shows and looking around into there because I loved being on stage, got the hit. And here we are 5 years later, an international performer with an agent and performing all over the world. So
Wow,
absolutely
that's
incredible.
some powerful stuff,
Yeah.
man. And you know, I'm sorry you went through all that. That must have been traumatizing, but you've come out of it the other end, and you're proving those people wrong. You know.
Yeah, it's the story I share is not a sad story. It's a motivational story, and I'm a massive advocate to say, with me having a disability and with me having all these challenges against me, and other people might relate to this situation where they have challenges, my message is now, well, if I can do it, you definitely can. You know?
Yeah, and there's a powerful message in there, and I hope people listening will be able to pick up on that. But these are the things that people don't tend to notice. Somebody that comes to your show
No.
won't know that story at all.
No.
And that's why I was so excited for you to come
Yeah.
on and share that, because you know it's giving you, making you relatable and making you a person. You're not just somebody up on stage. I think we forget about that sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you say, people just see the viral stuff, the overnight success, and people don't realise that it's been 5-6 years, and that's not even long in the making, of thousands upon thousands of no's, of no interest, and even now, I still battle sometimes. I still get refused for stuff. It's not easy. We've not made it by any means, and people don't see the hard work that goes in behind the backgrounds of working a full-time job. I was working 12-hour shifts, coming home at night time, working till 1 in, reaching out to emails, doing research, doing my due diligence, getting back up for another 12-hour shift while running the house, having a puppy at the same time. It can be a lot. And that's why now I'm not just an entertainer, I'm also a keynote speaker and a corporate trainer. And I've developed a presentation called Mindset for Success. And it's all about sharing my story and taking 3 simple psychological techniques to help people improve their goal setting and become the best version of themselves. And it's very entertaining, and there's some mentalism and hypnosis and visualization and stuff in that. But it's simple enough that people can take away a self-help toolkit to start applying these methods into their everyday life, so they can succeed not only in business but in their personal life as well. And when I went to see motivational speakers, I often found that I would love their story and love what they have achieved, and it's incredible to hear, but how does that help me? And there was really a gap in the market of, okay, let's tell people my story, but let's give them something that they can do without me, without paying any more money, apply to their own mindset and help them achieve their goals. That's going to be a lot more beneficial than just me coming in and saying, look how incredible I am, because I'm no better than anybody else.
Yeah, you found something that works for you, and
Yeah.
you know that is the battle, because for me, I do everything to try and make something. What is the thing that makes
Yep.
me feel better? You know what I mean? Whether it's cold therapy, whether it's going out a run,
Absolutely.
whether it's, you know, therapy, talking to someone,
Yep.
journaling, you know,
Yep.
I try it all, and it is a part of you've got a bag of tricks. You just need to find which one sticks.
Well, that's it. As you say, everybody, it's not just plan A. You have plan A, B, C, and if that doesn't work, then let me introduce you to D, you know? And people often hyper focus on that magic moment. What's going to change my life? What's going to work for me? The answer is you. You are your own magic moment, and that you can hyper focus on trying to look for the solution, but if you actually just start to work on yourself, everything else falls in place.
Yeah,
Do
absolutely.
what makes you happy, and everything else will just, right its path.
Yeah, and I could be an advocate for that as well. You know, I've not helped myself for years until the last year.
Yeah.
So, and I've learned more about myself in the last year than I have in my whole life.
Absolutely.
And I feel like a completely different person because of it. But there was one thing that you said when you were talking about your story there, when you mentioned you were warning your parents that
Yep.
you were going to end your life. Do you think that was a way of you subconsciously reaching out and being like, someone saved me?
Oh wow, I've never looked at it like that. That's a great question. I suppose in the moment I wouldn't have realised it because I thought I was so set on it. But often with mental health and suicide, you're right. People who have completely made up their mind go and deal with their things very quietly, and they don't want to be persuaded otherwise. So no, I definitely say that's correct. I definitely say that was my subconscious coming out and reaching out, and subconsciously doing the hypnosis had obviously built up a kind of safety net for me that I didn't even realise was there until what made me have that thought to say, I'll try this tonight. You know, because it's not like I'd even considered it beforehand. It wasn't until that evening, it was just a split moment decision. Okay, I'll give this a go.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe the results. And again, like you say, it's not the be all and end all. Hypnosis isn't a magic wand. It's not a tool. Well, it is a tool. Sorry, it's not. It's not a magic solution. It will work for some and not for others, and that's okay. But find your magic tool. You know, everybody has one. It's just finding it what works for you. But don't. I would say don't hyper focus on it. Don't go right. I must do this and I must do that. Do what makes you happy. And if you don't know what makes you happy right now, start to just try things. Set yourself a list and say, just try this today. I'll try this today, and not expect anything. Don't set yourself any expectations. Just try it, because that's a milestone in itself. Trying something new, and you never know what can come from it.
Absolutely. And you were saying that you give lectures as well, and
I do, yeah. So a lot of, as I say, it's fantastic being on stage, but I do believe that anybody with any sort of form of platform, I think it's our slight responsibility, and I'm sure anybody else that's in kind of the media eye or whatnot would say the same. You have this want to help, especially that 10-year-old, 8-year-old, 12-year-old little boy Fraser is never far from my mind. And I think I'm not going to be the only person with a visual impairment or a disability, or even just a normal abled person, or what we classify nowadays as normal abled. I'm not going to be the only one that felt like that. Yes, times have moved on, and it's a little bit later on, and technology's developed, and there's processes in place, especially around school and education, to make things safer. But social media now, it's just now bullying's went online instead of in person, you know. But it's never far away. So I actually went and lectured at a college in Ayrshire to help them cope with anxiety for exams, and because a lot of people get stressed about these things, and people forget that with teenagers the hormones are all over the place, and they're still developing their cognitive process and how to figure out life and their priorities, and sometimes they think a little bit irrational and stuff. And I often find, especially with my shows, I always give a motivational message, a positive message to end my show, because it's amazing having people up on stage, and it's amazing the volunteers sharing their incredible imagination. But let's not forget the joy that it's brought us, or let's not forget the science or the power behind this stuff that's happening in front of your very eyes. It's not just used for entertainment. Changing your mindset, whether it be through mindfulness or subliminal messaging or hypnosis or visualization or whatever you want to call it, is a powerful thing. A lot of corporate businesses use it. So let's teach people, and let's educate the next generation, and let's give back, because I'm only 28 years old and I'm not going to be young forever. So I want to do this while I'm young, so that I'm relatable, you know, because that's the age gap was where I struggled with. So let's help others with that.
yeah, for me, I was before the social media age, so
How old are you?
I'm 33 in
My
August.
goodness, you look about 27. You're good. It's the beard. It's the beard.
Thank you. I'll take it. But yeah, I can't imagine what it's like growing up now, with social media being taking the bullying home from school. It used to be you'd only get it at school. Not that I was bullied at school, but I think there's different forms of bullying.
Yep,
little
absolutely.
comments can be bullying
yeah.
in a way, but I think everybody's had that in their life. But there's bullying, and then there's the bullying that you had, which is mental torture.
Yeah, and as you said, it doesn't always need to be on full on bullying. It can be the little comments. If you think about it, companies on the telly. Have you ever been sitting, right? Let's just do an example. Have you ever been sitting and it's like 1 o'clock in the morning and you can't get a song out your head, or just all of a sudden you fancy a Chicago Town pizza just randomly at 10 to 2 or 1 o'clock in the morning? Why has that happened? Because little things on the radio and in the telly, product placement, all these things, even supermarkets are stocked in a way that it's to subliminal message you to buy the more expensive products, right? We see it all the time. It's the same with bullying. If you're getting little nitpicks at you every single day, then it starts to build up this picture. And the picture it builds up is creating this image in your own mind that's actually not true. So you end up painting this false reality of yourself like I did, and start to believe the comments that people are telling you. As I said, it's not so much the comments or the stories people tell you, but then it becomes a story that you tell yourself. And you get inside your own head and you create this own false reality for yourself.
Yeah, and we're all egomaniacs. I don't care if anybody tells you any different. We all care about how we look and how we're presented
Absolutely.
to other people, and I think letting go of that is what people need to deal with.
Yep.
They don't give a fuck who
Yep.
judges me for whatever I do in my life.
Yep.
You know, only God can judge me.
Do you have a tattoo?
Yeah. No, I'm kidding on. You know,
I
but
think, especially being on stage, nobody will admit it, and I wouldn't say to myself that I like my ego getting stroked or anything like that. But I think deep down, on maybe a subconscious level, all performers have a desire to be loved or attention seeking in some way, or seek that attention in some sort of format, because the amazing high and the endorphins that you get on the stage, whether you want to admit it or not, makes you feel good. What I try and separate is the social media culture, and the way that if a video does well, it does well. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I just want to be as pure as I can and put out what I enjoy, and that's okay. And we see the comments, and especially on TikTok, the viral ones of it's actors and it's stooges. Then, well, I invite you, come see a show. I invite you to come see a show. And if you don't and you just want to put it online, then it's more clickbait from me. So it's all good.
And it's funny because social media has kind of made everybody feel like me. You know,
Yes.
you're posting a picture. You're not posting it as a memory book anymore. You're posting it as like, how many likes can I get on this? And that's a lot of bullshit, you know.
Yeah.
And you've got a recent success on TikTok of your video doing crazy numbers, and like you must get a buzz off that.
What was those numbers again?
Well, you tell me.
Is it just the 440,000?
I mean,
no.
to reach that amount of people, that is the power of the platform. But
Yes.
but is there something about that gives you a little bit of a high? Because if you think about that little boy that got bullied, think about him, and then think about him basically being like, I've got all that acceptance of people liking something I've done.
For sure. I ask anybody, if you wake up and your phone's got over 24,000 likes and 440,000 people viewing it and saving your video and commenting and whatnot and sharing it, of course it's nice, because as a content creator and as a performer, as a business, you want to grow, because at the end of the day, as much as I love what I'm doing, I'm trying to provide a better living condition and life for my family and my future children. So yeah, I enjoy it from that sense. But there's a big but. There's a big but for this. Okay, so the answer is yes. The wholesome answer is yes. However, before your head can't fit through the door, you just need to scroll the comments and see the load of abuse you get, and that brings you right back down to reality. I discovered in life that, and a lot of people don't do this. Okay, I discovered that as soon as you stop trying to please the weight of the world stays off your shoulders, right? So the only thing in life that's guaranteed every single day is the sun will rise and the sun will set. Okay, everything else is out with your control. Illness, financial, the weather. If you think about it, everything else is out with your control. Or else you think the things you do control, you need to turn up to work, or you need to do this to the car. But think about your life. All those things are through your behaviours and your choices. Okay, the only thing that's guaranteed is the sun will rise and the sun will set every single day. All right. So before your head gets so big and it can't fit through the door with the social media, realizing that you can't please everybody takes a weight off your shoulders, because you might change something like I did to try and change my appearance, and half the people will love it, but the other half that used to love you now don't love you, and vice versa. And you can do that all the time, and you would go through your entire life trying to please everybody and giving yourself a million reasons as to why you're failing, except the one reason that really matters, and that's your own happiness.
Yeah.
You know?
So you're going to stay humble then when you get all these numbers every week?
Just the 3 mansions, you know. I don't know. I never planned for any of this to go the way it's going, and I'm very. We use the word humble, but what is humble nowadays? I feel very privileged and honoured to share my story and inspire other people, and I love walking out on stage, and I'm at my happiest when I'm on stage, because I don't worry about the albinism, don't worry about how pale I look or how bright the sun is, or is my eyes squinting, is my eyes shaking, or anything like that. I just completely relax and be Fraser, and that's really, really nice.
That's an amazing feeling to get that high from performing on stage.
So good.
You know, I've been a singer in bands, so I've got a small glimpse of that on a small scale. Obviously.
I was worried earlier on when you were asking about the guitar. I thought you were going to bring out a guitar from the back, and I was like, smoke in the water.
I know. I was going to say, do you incorporate the guitar into your shows at all? Would you do that?
I do not. I don't think I'd have any shows left.
I know. I'm the same. I've been trying to teach myself the guitar over the past wee while, because I've always been a singer,
right?
And that always set me back from songwriting, because I'm not used to playing the guitar and knowing the structure of I'm used to just putting lyrics to a song, which I was never good at all.
And it's funny you say that, as you say, artists and performers. The reason I stopped doing the theatre was I was getting some lead roles, and one day I got a no, you're not the lead role. What do you mean I'm not the lead role? Like, I'm always the lead role. No, you're not the lead role. And that just completely killed my confidence. As you say, the singing's your comfort zone, so branching out with the guitar is something different. But I'd encourage you to give it a go. What's the worst could happen? Right now, you don't play the guitar, so if you play it and you mess it up, then you're only back at the stage that you are just now.
Yeah, that's very true.
You know?
Did you ever think about going down the talent show route of Britain's Got Talent? I know
Well,
Colin did very well at that.
Yes, he did. There might be some things I can't talk about.
Oh, okay. We're getting an exclusive here.
But I have some friends that have been on Britain's Got Talent and America's Got Talent and stuff like that, and the insights. And it's, of course, it can be life-changing, the platform that's on there. And who knows? I'm just taking every day, every month, every year as it comes, and strapping in for the ride of a life. It really is. It's awesome.
Yep, and enjoy the ride, because that's the bit that you'll look back on. You know, you won't look back on the magic moments. You'll look back on the journey. You know what I mean?
Well, do you know what? It's funny, because I speak now to some fellow hypnotists and performers and whatnot, and it's the bad shows you remember. It's the turning up to a show and nobody wants to volunteer. I done a show for 11 people. Now, for anybody that knows hypnosis, it's all about suggestibility and how good people's visualization and imagination is. So I normally work off crowds of 100, 150 plus minimum. So to do a show for 11 people was very, very brave. I remember turning up with my speakers and my mixer and my microphone and just drawing my own posters. It's horrendous. I hope there's no footage that's ever out there of it. I hope all the old assets are deleted, but oh my goodness. But that's and I'm sure you're performing for the singing. It's what builds your craft. What gives you the confidence, and that's what makes a performer. It's these bad shows that make your good shows look incredible, you know. And if you're always trying to improve your own standards, then it can only go up for there. We all have those shows that we just go.
And performing to 11 people, is that easier to read then?
No, that's very difficult. So obviously we go through the psychological process, and the percentage is roughly about 5% of the room. So if you think 5% from 10, that's quick maths.
I'm dyslexic as well, so you're not getting no maths out of me.
Does any producers get any numbers there? It's not. So I done a show with one person. a full hypnosis show with one person. I turned up to a pub locally one night and put out all the chairs, and the landlord said, yeah, we'll advertise it and all the rest of it. So anytime I get booked, I say, let them know there's a hypnotist coming, because hypnotist does not go well on surprise. People's bums start to pucker. And I turned up and I put the chairs out, and it came to the part in the show where I was asking for volunteers and people were watching the football. So I was like, no volunteers.
Fuck off, mate. Rangers are
shows.
playing.
So I think I scraped by with about 3 people eventually. I think they just felt sorry for me. But
You're a hypnotist, mate. What's the score going to be?
I know, it's all fake. I said, you know what? Well, I've been faking it successfully for the past 5 years, so get it up, you. But yeah, those shows made me realise that the show I wanted to design and the venues I wanted to perform in were your kind of theatres, your cruise lines, your corporates and stuff like that. And
Vegas, you got Vegas in the mind? Or is that too far away, too big a stretch to?
No, I'm hopefully going out to America for a couple of things later this year. Working alongside Richard, and I've got some meetings lined up next week and stuff. Vegas is always in the cards, you know. Vegas is for any performer or any variety performer is the creme de la creme, you know.
Yeah.
And so's the cruise ships. What an honour it is to perform in these amazing, beautiful theatres.
Yep.
And I would love to. Well, I'm doing my first theatre actually in Scotland in October. I'll not give the name or date because I still need to get the contract signed. But that's going to be a massive milestone for me and for my family and my mum and my dad especially. He, in the early days, helped me out financially to grow the business, and the love and support and the hours of driving you from gigs and helping you set up your equipment and take down your equipment. And he has another son and he's got grandchildren and he's got a life of his own, and he had a wee bit of a health scare as well. And you can always pick up the phone and it's never no. You know, it's never no. And he is one of my amazing, massive inspirations and hero, because just a good person, you know. For somebody that would give, you always hear people say they would give their life and their arm for the children, but he really would, as would my mum.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be half the man I am today without any of their love and support. And I think anybody who does it on their own or does it with family, or any entrepreneurs can relate to this. And you need your support network around you, especially when I was getting established. I was reaching out to more successful people than me, and not a lot of people want to give you their time of day, but the small few that do, you really keep them close to your heart. And I know that if they reached out to me now that somebody else was needing advice on something, that I would be more than happy to give up my time, because I was and I still am that eager puppy that's breaking out into the big bad world. And you know, if you don't have people to learn from or to grow or to be taught, it's where does your dream go? It stays a dream, you know. There's a process to help that become reality, and it's just comes back down to human kindness. One human being to another human being, of the best gift you can give MD is your time. That's what I always say.
And I'm glad you got to shout out your parents, because for me, my parents are the exact same.
Yep.
Fully supporting me. I'm living with them at the moment.
Yep.
And just the stuff that they're having to go through with me. They're on a journey with me. I've admitted all of the problems that I have and all the things that I'm dealing with, and they're carrying that around with them as well.
Yep.
And you know, they're driving me to and from train stations at loads of different times and unsociable times and during work hours. For sure.
And what I actually found is your parents, people always say your parents are your best friend, but you really, as an entrepreneur or somebody that's trying to better themselves in some sort of way, shape and form, you develop this connection, because when you're driving in the car down to England or doing that, you've got nothing but time.
Yeah.
You've got nothing but time with no phones and no distractions, and you just have time to get to know them. And I've bonded with my mum and my dad more than I have in the last 5 years than I ever had, you know. I always loved them dearly, but just enjoy their company now. And whether it's business or not business, I like to hang out with them now, because they become your friends, you know.
Yeah.
And truly grateful. And if I'm ever a parent, then hopefully I can do the same for mine.
Yeah, so shout out to the mum and dads.
Yeah, big up the mums and dads, all the mouse and dose out there. Go you. Hope that's in the edit.
Well, no editing on this show, so it all gets kept in. So you are performing at the Fringe Festival. That was one that you can tell us about. So
Yes,
tell us a little bit more about that.
So the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, I will be headlining from the 15th to the 28th of August. No, sorry, 15th to the 27th. So 13 shows in 13 days. Big one. And it's headlining. I have a prime time spot as well. So the show's going to be from 6:30, and it's going to be at La Bella Angeli Theatre, and I believe that's in the Old Town in Edinburgh. And we're currently looking to partner with any local businesses or brands out there to do some sponsorship deals. So if anybody's listening to this that you are looking to take your business to the next level and get some exposure, we have some amazing opportunities for you as far as social media, in person, as well as marketing and venue stuff. Sorry, I just had to get that in.
Oh, no, man, this is your time to plug whatever you've got. Tell the
yeah,
people what you've got going on.
The Edinburgh Fringe was always a goal of mine. For a couple of years, there's been some amazing performers that come all over the world and internationally, and obviously it's covered on TV and everywhere. And I went to the festival when I was younger, but I've never been back since. And I was always, I suppose, a little overwhelmed to do it, especially being one of the youngest, if not the youngest, hypnotist here in the UK, and probably a lot around the world as well. But being Scottish, you kind of have that, oh, if he makes an arse of this is, you kind of feel that responsibility to put Scotland on the map. And I believe now, believing in myself and what's happened over the last couple of years, that now is a good time to do it, and I'm really, really looking forward to it. The venue's a historic venue. Some amazing performers have performed in their previous years, and it's went down a hoot. And they very rarely have hypnotists and mentalists at the Fringe. There's a lot of magicians and whatnot, but I can't even shuffle a deck of cards. That's not my thing. But credit to those guys, because it's amazing. I envy them. So yeah, I believe hypnotists are going to go down a storm. And hypnosis in the UK in general is very unknown. It's very unknown. Unless you're in the world of it, you probably don't realise it. If I would say to you, hypnotist, you would say Peter Powers or Paul McKenna or Robert Halpine from back in the day. And there's never been somebody young in their 20s. I always say that I'm putting a modern edge, a modern twist on an age-old art. And, I'm trending hypnosis and putting hypnosis on the map, and I'm proud to be Scottish, and I'm proud to be albino, wherever you are in the world, and I'm proud to do what I do, and I can't wait to take the world by storm and show them what Scotland has to offer,
Yeah, updating it, bringing it up to
Absolutely.
a new age. So
freedom. Braveheart the night before, channel BBC One.
And is there anything else other than the Fringe that you want to plug just now? Britain's Got Talent.
We'll keep it there just now, but keep following the social medias, because stuff will be coming later this year. It's just, I don't want to walk in on Monday's meeting and be met by an angry team. So we'll not say too much.
Speaking of social media, where can the people find you?
Yeah, so social media, please hit me up on Instagram. It's Fraser_Penman_hypnotist. On Facebook, it is the world's most unique hypnotist. And on TikTok, which is now viral, it's most unique hypnotist. All of our show dates, all of our tour dates will be getting posted on all of those platforms. And if you're listening to this, reach out, let me know you've heard it. I love to talk to people. I love to interact with people. And yeah, let's share it. Let's put Glasgow, East Kilbride, Scotland, people with disabilities, young people. Let's kick those old guys' asses and put us on the map, eh?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you very much for coming on.
No, it's an
I really
absolute pleasure.
appreciate you sharing your story as well, and thank you for doing so on this channel. I look forward to watching your career grow as well.
Yeah,
and it would maybe be cool to get you back after the Fringe show.
Absolutely. No, I'd love to. I'd love to come back, and thank you very much. It's great as I say, communication is the best therapy ever. Yeah.
Yep.
And it's great to be on, and thank you very much. The setup you've got here, everybody's been so professional. You guys have been so welcoming, and it's been an absolute pleasure. And if I was to leave anybody with one golden nugget, which I always like to do, and if you're listening to this and you've been in a similar situation to me or Callum, why not just accept that today you might not be feeling okay, but challenge yourself just for once, just for one attempt. Tomorrow, try and say to yourself, I'm going to believe in myself today. Or you're going to try something new, and just take it like that, one step at a time. You will not believe the difference you'll make over a day, 2 days, a week, a month. And let me know about your success, because your success is my success and my success is yours, right?
Excellent, man.
Awesome.
Well, thank you again for coming on. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next Tuesday.